Good afternoon. I'm going to start. I know people might still be filtering in, and I know you might be enjoying your lunches, but again, I'm going to offer a few remarks, a spring semester outlook. One bit of housekeeping for adjunct faculty. I believe we need your signature again for this afternoon. We want to be sure that we provide you with that stipend, so please, I think outside, we're going to need that from you. Happy New Year, everyone. I'll start by first thanking you for your time today, for your investment in one another. There looks to be a wonderful slate of workshops available for our staff and faculty today, and I hope that you're finding the focus on belonging and retention to be helpful as we're on the cusp of spring semester. As I shared in a recent campus email, there's really just a lot of good things happening at the college and for the college, and I'll certainly share more on that. It was also wonderful this morning to welcome back Javon Brame. Given his role in helping facilitate the creation of our strategic plan, it wasn't like a full circle, but maybe like a half circle moment that you could land with us today. Allow me to note just some of the essential points that we heard from Javon, and I appreciated that context of what we know, and perhaps there was an underpinning for those in the room about what we can and can't control, and what does it mean to change. So for instance, being a student-ready institution, just before COVID, we were still utilizing a primarily paper application process, if I have that right. And we had multiple instances when we would drop students for lack of payment. And we didn't have an integrated student environment that we refer to as a CRM, with the R and the M being relationship management. And those systems have now since been changed, and in significant ways. And sure, things like a FAFSA, and I was just in, I don't know if Nelson Lopez is here from Student Financial Services. I was just in his office myself last week with a father and a daughter, and as soon as FAFSA comes up, and you gotta get tax forms out and all that, it's a lot. It's a big hurdle for families to have to jump over. So there are things like that, things we can't control, things that are still perhaps beyond our control, is part of that student-ready conversation. The notion of value proposition and picking some things and doing them well. And our very name gives this some color. And as we discussed during the year we did strategic planning, and even at times, by the way, disagreed about that, when technical is in your name, it does invite a particular focus. Our friends, our families, and communities, really our lives, are dominated by the advances of technology and the scope of scale of all things healthcare. And it really is a positive that those are calling cards for STCC. I was also struck by the comment from Javon that retention is a result, and we are most certainly being measured by our collective effort. Last August, we showed, as part of the strategic plan, we have a dashboard. The Department of Higher Education very much looks at us. Lots of people look at us. Fall to spring semester retention. We do have a little pop quiz question later on, but I could ask, do we know what our student retention rate is from last fall to a given spring? And I believe historically it's right around 72%. So we are being measured. And lastly, there were a lot of many thought-encouraging and deeply meaningful aspects to our kickoff this morning. I was appreciative of the question about distance. I think it was a faculty member, and that distance in the relationship between our students. So, but walk with me through the history of technology here a little bit. Radio, and then television, and then the internet, and now virtual reality and augmented reality, VR. And I think we've said points along the way that we felt like there was a distancing in society between us and others. And so I don't know that there's any one answer from where we sit as a community college to how we navigate that. But we know we can build meaningful connections because we've always found ways to do that. As a community college, we don't have certain hows, so we don't have a residential component. Students aren't here living here. Even as we are that, by the way, very local connection, we're here physically if needed. Students to come to campus if needed. And we do have certain hows like small classes. It's not a term I've heard a lot more recently, but if you remember that term MOOC, M-O-O-C, Massive Open Online Course, well, that's a contrast to certainly what we do. We have smaller classes, and so our online is not that kind of online. We also have resources like CODAL, right, our Center for Online and Digital Learning, a unique resource. Again, I don't hear as much from our sister institutions about an entity like that that helps faculty in particular grappling with this question or concern about how they connect with students. My last note about this morning, and I thought, it was in my head the idea of sort of toward the end there, and I want to say thank you to Kelson for, sharing out loud that idea of what change looks like to him as he's prepping for the semester. I hope, here's my hope in that last piece there, that we carry a confidence to try things. Perhaps that's the way to frame change, because change is hard for any of us. But if we have a confidence to change things, because work is not static, it's not something cast in amber. Preparation for thriving in a world today is not only what we offer students, but it's some encouragement for us as well. So again, that's just some thoughts on this morning. Let me switch gears a little bit. We are in that state of season. So state of the Commonwealth, state of the Union. They're often states of colleges. So with half academic year yet, call me still a traditionalist in some ways. I feel like the year is always culminated in commencement. With half an academic year left still in front of us, it's good though to take stock and also to keep looking ahead. And I can share how the college is positioned here at the start of 2024 with such a great deal of encouragement all the way around. And our strategic plan will continue to be a helpful resource. And yes, retention is one of those vital elements woven throughout. But how can I not start with enrollment? It's hard to start anywhere else but there. And after a strong fall, what we see is a helpful new trend of enrollment rebounding. Tracking right now at about 18% up for this time last year. That is a big number, really is. And I appreciate the applause this morning for the collectiveness that represents. It would have been, by the way, difficult to predict that. Certainly not within a model that we have projected, nor can we necessarily forecast that for next fiscal year. But Mass Reconnect Free Community College for Adults, as it's positioned right now, is clearly having an impact, and not just on us, but on every Massachusetts community college. A small note, given the focus today, when we hear Mass Reconnect, let's not think student recruitment to the potential exclusion of retention. Let's ensure our work connects retention to the new outlook on college affordability and how this enrollment trend has certain compounding benefits. What does it mean for that rate of 72% from fall to spring when a student might be worrying less now about that bill, about that cost piece? So again, looking at Mass Reconnect, not just as a recruitment tool, but as a part of our retention strategy, certainly with continuing students. So for the hundreds of new students who came to us this past fall or returned to us after taking a break, key is going to be supporting them this spring semester and then on to completion. And like last August, okay, so here's the low stakes pop quiz. And again, I think I used the term in August. Let me thread the needle. Let me try to thread the needle again on this enrollment stuff. So, okay, here's how this 18% translates. So walk that out. Once we hit our freeze date in the end of February, we're going to have somewhere around 4,300 students this spring, about 43,000 credits. Again, our students tend to go part-time. They're taking, on average, about 9 or 10 credits, so think of that as 3 courses. So I'll give you one part, and then I ask you to think about the second part. A year ago, again, 4,300 students, 43,000 credits. A year ago, we had 3,600 students, give or take, in spring, with about 37,000 credits. So here's the question. Where were we the spring that COVID happened? Hold on. Hold on. It's a quiz. Again, I'll baseline it for you. We're going to land somewhere around 4,300 students. We'll just do the head count piece. We were at 3,600 last spring. Spring of 2020, COVID happens. Spring break, we don't even make it to. We need another week. We don't come back again until the summer. Remarkable year to still have what seems like close to us and yet so far away. So for those playing a bingo card at home, if you had 4,700 students spring of 2020, you would be correct. So even with an 80% gain, like just remarkable, we're still not at a pre-COVID head count. And credits were more like 45,000, 46,000. So at a credit count, we're still not there. So again, it's a rebound. It's significant, it's substantial. Let's hope it compounds. But we're not where we were before. And by the way, all those costs that we carry all continue to go up as well. So again, just wanted to kind of thread the needle. It is really deeply encouraging. So we'll just under-promise and over-deliver. But I feel like we need to really see the context for the enrollment piece. The analytics, of course, of that enrollment will continue. We have every reason to embrace that optimism. We do seem to be establishing a new trend. And if we found the floor, again, there's new policies and supports that will help us with the bounce back, even as we have some distance before we achieve pre-pandemic enrollment and, yes, budget sustainability. A related note, John, I'll take that next slide too. Let's remember this, a couple points to baseline. Even before we had free community college, STIC was the most affordable option in the city of Springfield. So we keep a sharp eye on how we support students adapting, evolving. By the way, we're still going to probably be close to 50% online in our modality because of student choice. So we keep a fresh eye on approaches to teaching and learning. And again, that looks to be the nature of a lot of the workshops. Here's a slide for us to just let this sink in a little bit. High school students, mind you, yes, it's hard not to talk about them. They're probably only about 1/5 of our enrollment, right? That 18 to 20-year-olds is 18 to 20% for us. And you know, typically high schools with the aging of the Northeast are not getting bigger. If anything, they'll hold static. If you look on the far left side, and again, this is across all 15 Massachusetts community colleges, 73% attended college. Look at 2022, 62% attended college. Here's the part that is the eye-opener for us. You'll see a 7 percentage point decrease in students who previously chose community college who tend to not go, who now are choosing to not go anywhere. I think there's a myth that somehow our students might be choosing somewhere else. The competition isn't with us and some other institutions that we shall not name. It's between us and life. So know this. This idea of student ready invites us to focus on how to demonstrate, even with free community college, that value the investment of their time with us. So again, I just wanted to put that in front of folks. By the way, coverage of enrollment trends for community college, and particularly those in the Northeast, but particularly those in New England, show that outside of Massachusetts, enrollment is flat or declining. Connecticut's having a tough time right now. So given the academic year we're having, what a shot in the arm for us and for Massachusetts that we're bucking that macro trend. John, I'll take that next slide. Some other good news. In our ecosystem of higher education, it was notable that UMass came forth, I think right around the end of December, on a new community college student scholarship. Our administrators are working with others to establish how we calculate what that 10% element is. Again, I don't think folks really understood the nature of our students and how it'll be a little tricky to calculate what that class represents when you have multiple graduation points in time, things like that. But these are good problems to have. But again, a helpful investment in transfer. UMass Amherst, as an example, is working to reestablish a community college day for their School of Engineering. My thanks in advance to our STEM faculty for your participation in that. Next one. Let me just return back to the budget for a second. Let me segue to recent state news. The messaging overall, and again, I realize there's a bit of a paradox here, but overall the message is one of encouragement. Community colleges continue to be highlighted, and we are a key investment segment that has been invested in as part of the overall state budget. Governor Healy, in her State of the Commonwealth, made a point just last night. In fact, it was her second point of highlighting the investment in Mass Reconnect. So free community college has been a big deal for this administration, and we have a particular set of champions in the Massachusetts Senate. And you'll see a little bit about near-term, long-term, the notion of how we are managing this. Here's what I can also offer. Yes, the administration announced a reduction in funding. These are referred to as 9C cuts. And Massachusetts is actually constitutionally required to have a balanced budget, and revenue hasn't tracked with the projection this year. So in the media, you'll have read about cuts to local earmarks, perhaps, community projects, and those do have an impact. And we know community colleges have not been fully immune from this. And we're still working through what the cut to success means for STIC, and I'll share a little bit more about what success is. We think the cut is actually about rollover funding from last year, so some of the nature of this bureaucratic process. But it's not confirmed, and to our full-time employees funded by Success, rest assured, we're going to work on continuity and getting ourselves to the new fiscal year that starts in July. So again, a little bit of color here, where even though we saw a little bit of a touch, there is absolute indication of the preservation of this footprint. I'm going to talk about what the dollars are at the end. So by the way, this idea of, I call this and I thread this needle, because John, let me take the next slide. What does work? What we know is success, supporting urgent community college equity through student services. This is $14 million is what that position is in our budget. Really does work. If you look at any comparison of any of the demographic elements right there, you'll see across the 15 community colleges, those students engaged with success are the blue bubbles at the top. Their peer cohort matched below that does not have nearly the same retention rates. Success does work. So again, why the paradox? Because when it comes to the subject of community college retention, here's a great example, and unfortunately it fell under somewhat of the scalpel used to balance the budget right now. So in our case, the translation is programs like LEAD and MILE. By the way, the inspiration for all of Success really is scaling TRIO. We know from our data that success is retention. Retention is strategic, and connectedness, by the way, is embedded in the success of success. And also, not so secret approach to community college retention is a tailored and individualized set of supports and experiences for students. This doesn't really do justice to what success represents. 10, 12 different elements, qualitatively connected, that really help draw that student in. There's a complexity there. And we've certainly come a long way in how we've formalized, systematized this work. So there's work being done outside the classroom. Tutoring, by the way, is a good example. There's just a lot more organization here at the college with tutoring, and our Learning Commons has provided a particular identity for the student experience. And faculty know there are any number of resources that help you with students inside the classroom. Efforts that focus on your use of your syllabi as a resource, use of rich media, assignments that have a choice element, high impact practices, and there are, of course, workshops today that invite faculty to discuss pedagogy. Tried and true examples that support student retention continue to be you faculty with your students in labs, in programs that include clinicals and patient simulation, when practicum or internships are credit bearing, and as well as through writing assignments that have a real strong formative feedback loop, and none of those really have to be discipline specific, as hard as that may sound, given the discipline you sit in. By the way, let me step aside and say, let's give a thanks to all the people who helped prep today. I think it's been really, really solid foundation for us. Dr. Mary Wiseman, our Director of Instructional Innovation and Faculty Investment. Thank you, Mary, and your team at CODL, everyone for the time today. Thank you. I think I have one more slide, John. I'll let people digest that. Again, there's a lot of busyness here. To close, I can share that, again, our fundamentals at the start of 2024 are strong. Our momentum continues to build, and this week has been a good illustration. Illustration from Governor Healy and how this administration understands the value community colleges can play and will continue to play. There was even a mention last night in the State of the Commonwealth about an investment in heat pump installer training. I don't know if we have Professor Fahad Khan or Andrew Durand here, but thank you to both of them who were a sounding board this month as we were helping really kind of frame some of that work and conversation, because this is clean energy, decarbonization, workforce preparation for that jobs of the future work. And it's wonderful to know how we are seen as contributors to all that. And again, behind the scenes, that we hope to see as much as a $1 million investment in STIC for providing heat pump training. So more to come on that. But this is exactly what we anticipated with a strategic goal of elevating our technical mission. So coming full circle, I'll grant that retention might still, for any number of us, still seem undefined, or I wrote ambiguously overwhelming. Retention, ambiguously overwhelming. But please know there are 16 specific initiatives that we articulate in the Momentum Strategic Plan that, when taken together, combined with the lift from over 600 employees and hundreds of sections of courses in a lot of very unique programs taught by some very caring individuals, combined, we aggregate our retention and support of students. So some of the specific references in our strategic plan include expanding early college, bringing Head Start to campus, investing in Building 27, workforce, short-term, non-credit. Building 32, this is our HVAC and energy systems program, and if you have never found your way into that, there are parts that certainly look like a very classic New England basement, but it's good to know we're teaching on current technology and future technology, because we already do have some heat pumps, by the way. And expanding success, as paradoxical as the state has made that conversation, and developing things like a STEM studies pathway, not dissimilar to the success we've seen in the health science pathway. Continuing to address food insecurity. Have you seen the food lockers outside of Building 13? And we will, yes, utilize our CESI data to understand student views of care and belonging, and continue to use our equity lens for all that we do. All of that work and effort speaks to student retention and to student success, and I hope that gives us a way to get closer to what it all means. So as we look ahead, I offer that from that sturdy foundation, 2024 is set to be a really strong year for us. So in this last slide, we see a projection. This was a report as part of the legislation for Mass Reconnect and Free Community College, is to look at and project what would universal free community college look like and cost. What you see in that middle highlighted column is the, quote, preferred model of universal free community college, and it's projected to cost $170 million in the first year, which, combined with existing funding, puts total community college investment at over $500 million in Massachusetts annually. That is significant. That is tremendous. That level of support can be transformative. And with our major capital project for the School of Health slowly moving forward, it all means a great deal for us with budget season now set to start. So I look forward with excitement to celebrating with you and with our students and their families at commencement. Despite this frigid weather, the season of celebration will be here before we know it. Hope you found this helpful. The look ahead is very encouraging. In the meantime, I wish you all an excellent spring semester. Thank you.